organization or conference, how we call it. So TED's ideas were spreading, and the motto of TED is spreading parties down to Europe. This is a print screen from the official site, and I will tell you a little bit about TED. So TED is a platform for ideas about spreading, as I said before, and it was conceived by architect and graphic designer Richard Saul Berman. The first conference was held in 1984, but it was financially unsuccessful, and it took 6 years before the second conference was organized. It was organized in Monterey, California, and then relocated to Long Beach, California, due to a substantial increase in attendees. Initially, the speakers came from the fields, from these fields, technology, entertainment, and design, which is actually TED. But then it broadened to include scientists, philosophers, musicians, religious leaders, and many others. So now I'll pass over to my TED Talk today.
The last word?
Philanthropist.
Like impression. These are people who do something good and who don't like wait for any kind of
like volunteers,
money or something. Basically, no, like
rich
supporters of art.
Rich volunteers.
Yeah, like rich volunteers.
I got it. Thank you.
So my TED Talk today is Vocation, a Pile of Questions. There includes 3 parts: targeting issues, how it all started, and time is flying. So targeting issues. Sorry. It's better now. So, yeah. People say that you choose your job according to your vocation. Is the word vocation clear? So do you know what vocation is?
Vacation is good. A vocation, no, sure.
So vocation is that you feel that something, that you like something, some job, some work, some field of studies perhaps, and you want to occupy yourself with this.
And you're good at it.
And you're good at it, yes. So people say that you choose your job according to your vocation, but if it's so, then what is mine? And how will I understand that I found what I've been looking for? And if a vocation is what you particularly like and are very good at, then what comes first? I mean, does a person only feel vocation for what really suits them, or I can take up a profession I'm not cut out for, following my some vague dreams? And moreover, how much am I influenced by people I adore? So can I get a misleading motivation, being impressed by a person I've met, and won't bring me to the wrong path that only seems mine, as I perceive the whole thing through the prism of one particular man or woman? But what is motivation then? Isn't it a gift of fate to find an inspiring role model and therefore turn towards a new facet of life? So can a motivation be misleading? My head has been bursting with these questions since my school days in childhood, but I still haven't arrived at a final decision. And here comes one more question. Can any decision, in this case, be final when our life is about constant changing, moving, and learning? And the more I think of it, the clearer the picture of my future self stands out in my mind. So how it all started? Once during discussing this topic in the class, I thought on the essay I wrote being in the 11th form, and at that time I was participating in some English Olympiad, and the first task was to trace all the events from the very childhood that had led us to the decision to devote our lives to languages. And having started writing, I unexpectedly found out that every year in my life was in some way connected with languages. And I remember that I learned English in the kindergarten, and I thought my teacher to be a verbal, who became English crossing the threshold of our room, and then returned back to Russian after the class. And I also remembered how much my life changed when a new teacher at school took our class and showed the miracle of speaking and thinking in a foreign language. Then I also remembered all the fears, tears, and tantrums I faced working my way through the pricky bushes of learning a foreign language. But it gave me an excitement, and all these fears and tears were dwarfed by the excitement it gave me. And who or what was responsible for that excitement? The teacher I met, the pure psychological barrier I overcome, or the fact that I suddenly became good at the subject I've been struggling to make friends with for so many years. And almost at the same time, I started preparing for my history exam. I had never liked this subject, to be honest, but when I learned more about it, I became keenly interested. Could I trace the same chain of events connected with history or any other subject? Had I started learning it earlier or met a genius history teacher, would it all have happened differently? So many people consider vocation to be something which is given by God and then nourished inside one's soul. So was the choice of the profession written in the book of my fate, or it was conditioned by coincidences? It seems to me that this is a question I'll never find the answer for, but maybe I don't even need one. So I'll trail off losing the logic of my narration and trying to think of what I have now. The time is flying. During these almost 4 years of studying at the university, I met several new people who encouraged me a lot and whom I highly esteem. Now I feel a strong vocation for more than one thing, and I'm being torn between several loves, so to say. And I can't make up my mind which area to choose. Time is flying, so I'll have to do it sooner or later anyway, but not now. Will I finally fix upon one thing or decide to combine a number of them? The only thing I'm absolutely sure about is that I should keep on doing what I like and indulging my inner impulses as I've been always doing before. And I believe that my soul knows everything in advance. So if I'm wholeheartedly satisfied by what I occupy myself with, I'm on the right way. I feel so, but am I? It's the question for me. And the question for you is, what is your vocation, and have you already found a job or some field you feel confident in and content with?
Not yet.
Not yet, so do you feel your vocation? Do you feel what you want to do?
That it connected with languages, but another field is painting.
Painting, so you also found between several things.
What?
Several things. So,
Yes, I feel that I will connect my vocation with several things.
but what's your professional, like officially?
Usually I'm ecologist. I'm an ecologist.
You don't like ecology or what?
I like ecology, but that doesn't seem that they will connect my life with that. I'm not sure.
You know, it's a very philosophical question about vacation because while people are growing and they're getting older, they're changing their attitude towards everything. Sometimes when I'm younger, when like boys younger, when girls and when boys younger, they want to be something. But when they grow up and meet people, meet more opportunities, they change their vocation. Even in the kindergarten, he wanted to be a cosmonaut, you know, fly in space. But when he got older, he realized that he can't do that, that he has to choose something else, and so he's trying to change his path. And we know that we all go through psychological age, and our preferences, they change from time to time. And maybe you don't have to look at your childhood, you have to look right now who you connected at this moment and what you like at this certain time, and what's your preference right now, where your life is right now, how can you be useful for yourself and to others, for example. So I know people who right now used to work as teachers, and then they realize that they're not satisfied with this kind of job, and they get another education. And this is a great opportunity when the person can we have so many opportunities where we can change our own destiny just by changing who we are and what kind of education we get at this point of time. So vocation can be, you know, kind of philosophical question.
Yeah, actually you're right. Something different changing to the life. If you're growing up, if you work harder and realize so you're just a little tired about your work, maybe you need to change someone. Maybe you need to change your profession, maybe you can change your collective and something else, but it's not about me.
And what's your location?
Actually, about so many times I worked like advertising, like printmaker, and I like it. And I like it really because it's about my way of life. It's about my lifestyle. It's about my talents. When I can use my talents in my job, I think it's okay. Sure, sometime I realize so I need to change place of life, so I realize I need to change something specialized of my work. Now I realize so I have to make a new business with some of my friends, but I still work like an advertiser, and make a new business, it's more interesting because it's vice.
I have a question to you. Can I ask you? Yes.
Yeah.
So you told us about talents. Were you born with this kind of talents, or did you develop it during your life?
Actually,
Do you think you have it from childhood?
I understand you, but you know, every kind of people was born with some talents, and so many people doesn't developing their talents. Some people didn't realize it, so they are held.
By
Maybe
definition,
you should
talent
help
isn't
them
something that you can
find
develop.
out their talent in them.
Yeah, you haven't.
What kind of job?
Yeah.
You can polish your skills.
Yeah, but talent is something different.
Something that you
Yeah,
obtain,
yeah,
not
thank
you
you.
only.
So as for me, I just try to use developing my talents, and if I have some good results about it, sure I use it next period, next time, and if I use it in my job, I can give some money for it.
What are the talents? Will you share with us?
Actually, it's something about music. It's something about something creativity, because we have to create some new brands, brand names, creating and legends of brands. It's about like this.
Are you have any future star here? Will you sign a paper? Maybe one day I can sell it for $1 million and make some money.
Actually, we have a lot of such papers in the blog.
What about you guys? Have you found your vocation?
No, I think it's orientation and the process of finding it. And I told that someday I will be sure that it's that my job is my passion, and I like it very much, and I can do it better than everyone else, and that will become the greatest day of my life, I think. When I will be sure that I found my destiny.
And you, Les?
I look at vacation not as a final destination, but the process. So you go through your life and follow something that you like at the moment. Probably I agree with one of the opinions expressed previously. So each moment of your life you are very attentive to yourself, to your inside impulses, inner impulses, and the impulses which come from the outside, and you use them to understand what to do and how to do that. But still, at the same moment, you have something that I think given to you, like from childhood, not childhood, by
School days?
I don't know, not school days, but when you were born, I said so. When you developing it through your lifetime. Some details might change, but still, as your character, more or less constant thing. The general trend the same. You might go some different ways, but still you will follow your inner self.
And then can motivation be misleading? So, for example, I meet a person I adore, I esteem, and then perhaps I gain some dreams, some vague dreams, and some path that is not mine. So can it be misleading?
In some way, maybe. You probably should like ask yourself, ask your intuition, maybe.
Or is it perhaps vice versa? So if I miss something and someone, and if I like some jobs or some field, I don't know, then isn't it a sign that I'm close to my vocation, to my destiny?
I don't know. I have no questions. You better create your reality in your dreams. Because sometimes it happens when you think about something you would like to try, or the events just come the way that you want, and you will try it in any way. Just listen carefully and look around and get the answer. That's my opinion.
Thank you.
I want to ask all persons who is here now, what do you think? Might it be too late to change your lifestyle, to change your job, and to go to find your vocation, to find your own way?
I can answer. I have a personal example in my life when, we had economic crisis here in Russia, right? About
We have
2000,
it
I believe
every
2008.
10 years.
Everybody, economy went down, everything went down, a lot of people lost jobs that time. And I know that man, he was 45 at that time, and he lost his job, and he couldn't support his family, he couldn't give education to his children. And he completely changed. He studied, he opened some books, and he started to study physics himself. He went to the library, every day he went to the library. He was there from 8 o'clock in the morning until almost midnight, the public library. And right now he's a successful businessman who knows a lot of stuff about physics and chemistry, and he has his own production of the factory, the chemical factory to produce different metal, this company. And yes, and he loved his job, and he changed his job, and he's happy. So I think it's never too late. If you feel that you have something inside that kind of job doesn't suit you, it wears you out, it stresses you out, you hate everybody because of that job. And you hate, the main point you hate your job, then yes, you should definitely change your kind of think and say, hey, stop it. It's not what kind of life I want. You know, I was given this life not to live in misery and to go to this job and hate my boss and hate all the co-workers and just start. It doesn't matter how old you are, 20, 28, 35, 60, 90, whatever.
It's
If you
never too
decide
late
it,
to-
then go ahead and change it.
It's never too late to improve
It's
your
never too
life and
It's never too
to
late.
become happy.
Yeah, right.
But it
Happiness is not a final destination, it's a way of life.
It's a progress. It's a process.
It's process.
If you're pessimist and you say, oh, like, no, I'll keep going, maybe it's gonna get better, then of course, yeah, you stay at the same job.
But it depends. For example, if you want to be a sportsman, for example, gymnastic sportsman, it's kind of late to do it, for example, on 30 years, because it will be better to do it since childhood.
Oh, wait, you're mixing better and best. If you want to be the best sportsman in the world and, like, I don't know, break the world record, then maybe it's better if you're 20 than 30. But if you just want to do some sport, then even if you're 90, that's
But if you
okay.
want to go to Olympic Games, for example.
Yeah,
sure.
So
Sure.
go ahead and
If you
train.
want to be
What
a
about
champion
that
of
Canadian guy
bodybuilding, it's
doing those bobsleigh? He saw Olympic League and he was 35, and right now he's a gold champion. He has a gold medal. And he said, well, I'll choose the most dangerous sport, but I'll take this medal though. And
someone 43 years
very
old.
good, yeah.
But they started to do it since young.
No, he didn't. He gave an interview. When he started, he was about 38 years old man. He was about legit guy.
But probably before he did something else.
Well, go to the gym. That's good. To make keep yourself in shape.
Okay. It's different.
First of all, you're competitive with something different person, but with yourself. If you growing with yourself level, it's victory.
Win yourself, and you will win the world. I don't remember who said that, but if you overcome yourself, then you will overcome everybody. Some great philosophers said that.
I think it was like save yourself and thousands would save afterwards.
Something like that, yeah. Same point.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We've got another TED Talk.
Yeah, we got two.
Okay. The next.
Me? Okay. Yeah, why not? I don't need a projector, so we can charge your laptop instead. I just cannot see it suffer. Alright.
Thanks. 1 second.
Oh yeah, I forgot my paper. Basically, I didn't prepare a presentation because I want you to look I wanted you to look at me, not at my presentation. And I still got a paper. Not a lot of questions there. All right. Following an avalanche of all sorts of like English clubs, English courses, just English learners that popped up out of like the blue, out of nowhere. This spring, like several days ago, I don't know, I really wanted to deliver a speech on why none of these people will ever learn English. But I decided that for an English-speaking club, that's kind of a sad topic, and we want to be optimists, right? So instead, I decided to maybe talk about, well, we can discuss it later, okay? Like any sorts of topics. But what I really wanted to talk about right now, right here, is why everyone should learn a language that is not English.
Language that is not English?
A language that is not English, right?
A foreign language. Or
Yes, a
a
foreign,
language.
well, even learning Russian would be really good if you're Russian, because there are many things you don't know about it. And I did learn a lot of Russian.
So what about programming languages?
That's another topic.
That's
I'm, I'm mostly speaking about, how do I define languages that are not programming languages, but that also include constructed languages. Okay, let's say no. Okay, well, I'll just, not necessarily human, because Klingon is one of the most, well, the best known constructed languages, and it's still not really human. Dothraki is not, yeah, right. So some of like human or some of the human languages or languages looking like human doesn't really matter. So why you should learn something else rather than English. And my presentation will have three topics, three like parts, just as Anna did, fun, culture, and worldview, and I'll explain it later. The topic is not as like, I don't know, as important maybe as vocation, it's just hobbying. But anyway, so you should learn a language besides English, because first of all, it's fun. And it's actually double fun, because it's first as fun as any other hobby, and secondly, it's fun because you're learning something. I mean, well, if we compare it with doing a sport, you're learning some things about sport, but they become mechanical really quickly. And in a language, when you're learning a language, there are things that become mechanical, but there are just few of them. And mainly what you're doing is like you're constantly exploring things. I'm not even talking about new words or new grammar patterns. I'm mostly talking about like cultural things. I'll talk about them later, but in general, that's the joy of learning, plus the joy of having learned something. Because it's really a pleasure being able to listen to a foreign person speaking and understand him or her. And it's a pleasure to speak a foreign language when you're at least a bit fluent in it. It's even a lot of pleasure to just master one sound in a foreign language that you couldn't master. I thought I could just say a tongue twister in Swedish for a sound that I couldn't master in like half a year. So I mean, I learned some basic Swedish really quickly, so I could talk quite fluently, really quickly, but I couldn't master this one sound in this one dialect that I liked very much. So basically, they have different ways of saying the sound for this. In some dialects they say sh, but in some dialects they say wh. And it's actually really hard to say the right kind of, because it's not foot and it's not like, I don't know, yeah. And I just wrote this down because I'm bad at remembering tongue twisters. So it sounds like that was it.
It's more like a Japanese.
Okay.
It sounds.
I don't really know any Japanese, so the Swedish in this one region in Skåne have this very nice dialect and this very nice sound, and I mastered it for half a year, but after I mastered it, it's a real pleasure pronouncing it, you know. So, as I said, learning a language that is not English is double fun. Actually, if it's not English, it's triple fun. Because when you're learning English, it's all the same. It's like you're learning things and you're happy to have learned things. But if it's not English, then you have some kind of added joy that this is some kind of language not everybody knows. Because for a lot of countries that are not Russia, if you go there, a lot of people just speak English. And it's normal to speak English. It's not just some kind of, oh wow, you speak English, oh wow, you're a polyglot. No, it's just normal to speak English because there are a lot of tourists or there are a lot of, I don't know, foreign people just coming into the country and you ought to speak English. That's the language of intercultural communication. But here in Russia, that's some kind of a language everybody should speak, but nobody speaks. Well, not nobody speaks, but let's say like 80% of the population, according to some recent research. Right. So that's a real pleasure to know some language that is not pop, let's say. Right. Okay. Let's pass on to my second point, which is culture, and that's one of the most important things that I learned while learning languages, and one of the most valuable things maybe. Getting to know other cultures and getting to know your own culture. I actually underestimated the importance of it, but for me it's actually nearly the best point about learning languages whatsoever. So, what is there about culture? First of all, which is like on the surface, you learn cultures of other nations. The pieces of culture that are ingrained in the language and pieces of culture that are only available to you because you're learning the language. Because like, okay, you have stereotypes about nearly any nation, and this is good. This is like, this is normal, and this helps you to some kind of have some kind of opinion about this nation before you even meet one person from it. But as soon as you're starting to learn the language, you're starting to understand these people, and you're starting to maybe take some good things from that culture, or just start to sort of know more about it, and that's always fun again, right? So for example, I'll tell you a story. There was a time I invited my boyfriend over to my house, to my parents. Basically, we sort of had a dinner, and he's French by nationality, and the French are a bit different from the Russians. I won't develop on it. I will just say that water has a very special part in the French culture. So for Russians, water is like a drink, right? So you can drink tea, you can drink milk, you can drink like juice, you can drink water. But for the French, water is like air. So you can still drink tea, that's a drink. You can see it's like even a meal. To have a tea is like to have a meal, or like water again, like milk and juice and everything. But water is something like the air. So you feel normal when you're breathing during a meal, right? So you feel normal when you're like drinking some water during a meal. So that's the thing. He just came over. There was like a huge meal, and yeah, there was a glass of water standing there, and he was drinking, and that was nearly okay. But then my mother served tea. And what he did was like drinking tea and drinking water. This shocked her. This was like, this stunned her. She was just sitting there and looking at him. And the only thing she asked me as soon as like we were done with the dinner was, why? Well, I wouldn't say that if I didn't learn French, I wouldn't like know it, but at least learning French helped me know a lot about all those things. And the same thing like with, I don't know, German or Dutch or Swedish or all sorts of other languages. So that's learning about other cultures, and it is interesting, and this also makes you a very special person, which is very valuable, because when you're coming to, say, the Netherlands, I've never been to the Netherlands, but I love the Dutch language. And I believe that this will make me sort of a special person, because the Dutch people are really used to English being spoken to them. But as soon as you speak Dutch to them, they're like transformed. They they basically would prefer speaking English to you because they don't believe you speak Dutch. But as soon as they believe, you become a special person who's interested in the Dutch language, in the Dutch culture, who is very different from everybody else who's coming to the Netherlands and speaking English to them. So this is really valuable. I'm actually really pissed off when I hear about Russian tourists coming to Turkey, I say Turkey, and speaking Russian. And speaking Russian is not that bad. The bad thing about it is like expecting other people to speak Russian towards them. This is really, this really pisses me off. Like, I mean, they're coming like from their vacation in Turkey, and they're writing a reference on the site of a hotel, and they're saying that the service was bad because they didn't speak Russian. So I don't suggest you learn the language of every country before you go there, but I just suggest you don't at least expect people to speak your language to you, even if your language is that big as Russian. It's just not that common, and it's actually hard. Yeah, and speaking about Russian, the other cultural thing about learning languages is getting to know your own culture. And yeah, this is the most important aspect of actually the cultural part. Because it's not before I started learning different languages that I understood how Russian I actually am. How I love tea, and how tea should be actually, like, it shouldn't contain water. Like, I mean, you shouldn't drink water along with it. And there should be sweets served, and there should be a person to talk to. Because otherwise, that's not tea, and that's not like Russian tea. And I'm very Russian. I don't know, I love biting. I've never seen a bear, right? So I just get to rethink all the stereotypes that people have about Russia and the stereotypes that I have about myself, whether they're true or not. And another important thing is like things that you try to express while speaking another language. Because hey, Russians do not have articles, for example. That's why we're having problems with articles in English. But Russians do have aspects, like the perfective and the imperfective aspect. Foreigners learning Russian have a lot of problems with it. But that's not the point. The point is that we're trying to express these aspects whenever we're trying to speak another language. In English, that's not as visible, because in English we have present perfect that is kind of perfective aspect. And we have like all the rest of tenses, we have like simple tenses that are kind of imperfective aspect. But if we speak about other languages that only have 3 tenses, like for example Esperanto, this is awful. This is awful. I was teaching a couple of Esperanto courses in my university. Esperanto has just 3 tenses, present, future, and the past. And it's just fun to watch students trying to construct their first Esperanto sentences and trying to express all these aspects, like to smuggle all the aspects into their sentences. They're kind of like, I don't know, they try to add suffixes, they try to add something else in order to kind of express this aspect, although it's not necessary. Like the French, who don't have aspects in their language, do not expect it from you. The English do not expect it from you. The Swedish do not expect it from you. Just you don't have to carry all these aspects along. And if you just study other languages, you try to you start to understand that they don't expect you to. Some things are just, they go without saying, or they're not that important. And on the other hand, other things start getting important. There are languages, for instance, that have they have a lot of tenses, and it differs like depending on whether it happened yesterday or it happened the day before yesterday. There are languages that have a special tense for something that happened the day before yesterday. Like a different tense for like 2 weeks ago. For example, I'm not speaking about European languages. These are like some kind of Oceania or like Native American kind of languages. But anyway, like if you try learning languages that are from somewhere else, from another continent, from another language group and language family, then you start to understand how diverse culture can be and how different things to express in one sentence can be. Like in Russian, we are forced, for example, to express a tense through a sentence. So when we construct a sentence that contains a verb, we are forced to express some kind of tense. So we are forced to say whether it happens now, or it happened in the past, or it will happen in the future. And in English, we are forced to break this into like 12 tenses. But there are languages where you're not forced. There are languages where you can just mention the time when it happened, or like not even necessarily mention this time when it happened. So you can see this diversity, and you can see your place in this diversity. And maybe most importantly, you start to understand that there are other ways of thinking, and you don't have to like think that yours is the only way of thinking, and you start accepting other ways. And this is what's important, and this is what's valuable about learning languages, so you understand your own culture. And the last thing that I want to tell you is the worldview. I have actually nearly told you everything about it, because the worldview and the culture are very, very closely linked. Basically, the worldview are actually the things about how you see the world and how you express your thoughts about the world. So yeah, you start noticing how you actually see it, and in how many other different ways the world can be perceived. You can see all the ways that people trying to talk to you perceive this world. And you can even notice how different the worldviews of Russians can be. Just all those tiny details. But mainly, talking about all these benefits, I'm talking about the languages that are not English. Why? Because English is sort of a blend. It's a lingua franca, it's an international language. It's not the English of the British Empire anymore. It's not the English of the United States of America. It's not the English of Australia. It's some kind of a blend. I mean, you can try speaking like some of the American accents, or you can try speaking with the British accent. You can try only using the British words. But the only place where you will be fully understood is Britain or the United States of America, to that extent, right? So the English that is spoken everywhere is just a blend of everything, and that's a blend of accents. That's not, like, I'm not saying this is not really a language. This is a language. This is an international language. It doesn't belong to anyone anymore. And it's interesting in a way to speak English to people who are not native speakers of it. But it's far more interesting to learn native languages of other people. However, actually the further they are from you, the better. Because in my opinion, to learn Turkish, for example, for a Russian-speaking person, for natively Russian-speaking person, is far more valuable than to say, learn French. Because French is much closer, and you know, we have, although we live like between Europe and Asia, we sort of have this European worldview already. But if we look at the Turkish language, for instance, or we look at the Chinese and Japanese, that are very different, and that may be very difficult, but that are also very interesting because of it, and exciting to learn, that's where you start getting something from actually learning a language, apart from having to study the grammar, and apart from, you know, telling about what kind of person you are, and all those, I don't know, topics that you have to pass when you study English. You actually start having fun when you learn a language that is not as maybe as understandable and as predictable as English. That's what I want to speak about. Thank you. I don't feel this is as much a topic for discussion as Anna's, but still, if you have some ideas.
You said that the best to learn a language that is as far as possible from your own language or English. So why do you personally study European languages?
Because I just realized it. I mean, it's not before I studied several European languages that I realized how interesting it actually is to... I mean, I started with Finnish. I started digging like deeper and deeper, and I understood how interesting it is. And I also studied, I guess, it contributed an artificial language called the Thraki. You know that I studied. Basically, the good thing about this language is that the linguist who created it tried to put some culture into it. I mean, of course it was done before him, but still, it's very interesting how the culture of the Dothraki that was just described was ingrained in that language, and how it was predetermined by that culture.
So are you planning now to study, now,
Sure.
some Asian language?
Yes. Asian, for sure.
Which one?
Japanese?
No, I'm actually more planning on Chinese, but they're different. So the thing that I'm planning on studying Chinese doesn't mean that I won't study Japanese. Basically, there are more than 6,000 languages in the world, and you cannot learn each and every one of them in a lifetime. So you'll have to pick something. Right.
Let's learn Chinese.
Right.
Language one.
Well, thank you. You give us determination to learn a new language.
Yeah, that was my aim. Thank you. Okay,
You reached it.
Yeah, I want to add something. When you start learning a new language, a new foreign language, you start to better understand your other foreign languages. Like, when you study, for example, German, Italian, you better understand English or French or whatever your first foreign language is.
Yeah, that's it. That's like the added benefit. And also that's not like, I don't know, many people ask me the stupid question of how many languages do you know, which is impossible to answer at all, like impossible. Because I know different languages to different extents. I'm not even sure I know Russian, come on, because a language is like for a nation. A language is not for one person. You cannot possibly know Russian even if you're a native speaker of it. I don't know many words in Russian.
It would be better to ask how many languages can you speak freely?
Freely. What does freely mean?
Freely, I mean, you can chat with people from countries with your language you learn.
That depends on what I chat about. Because I can chat, like, okay, I can chat in 7 languages.
I mean, freely without borders.
Yes, like, I can chat about simple things in 7 languages. But I can chat about complicated things in just 3 languages. So that's a great difference.
English, Russian, and French.
And Esperanto. I don't know French that well. Yeah, that's it.
But sometimes you probably won't chat about some technical topics even in your native language.
Yeah, it was just yesterday that I asked another native person who was like a specialist on that matter about some Russian word I didn't know. Not that like I asked what this word means, I asked how it's called. Yeah, it was you. Okay. Any more questions, comments, something? No, okay, I know that's a topic to think about, so think about it. Right, are we having tea or are we having...
Yep.
Okay, good. Yeah.